ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to join you from London at this important conference. And it's a particular privilege to speak immediately after Mayor Giuliani. And I'm also pleased to see Senator Joe Lieberman there, who I met some years ago in New York City. He probably doesn't remember me. But this is certainly a timely event because, as we know, the annual general debate of the UN General Assembly opened 3 days ago. And I believe this year's gathering of world leaders in New York City is even more significant than usual because Iran is at a pivotal moment in its history. We have now seen 3 years of repeated anti-regime protests in Iran, ongoing workers' strikes across the country, rejecting the ruling theocracy and demanding genuine democracy and change in that country. We've seen the regime responding, and they continue to respond by stepping up domestic repression, mass arrests, executions, torture, and the killing of 1,500 protesters. The regime has resorted to terrorist attacks against members of the organized Iranian opposition, the MEK in Albania. And as we've just heard from Mayor Giuliani, an Iranian diplomat is currently awaiting trial in Belgium for allegedly masterminding a bomb plot against the NCRI, targeting its president, you, Madame Rajavi, and thousands of others, including members of my own staff from many other nations across the world gathering in Paris. There's no doubt that the mullahs are now clearly fearful of the imminent explosion of society in Iran, and yet they continue to defy international opinion. A case in point recently was their refusal to intervene to stop the callous execution of the Iranian champion wrestler and political prisoner Navid Afkari, despite a global outcry. I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, that Iran is now at a pivotal moment. And I therefore believe that my country, the United Kingdom, is mistaken, along with the 2 European powers, France and Germany, in its adherence to the flawed nuclear deal, which doesn't hold the regime to account and does nothing to counter its unacceptable behavior at home, throughout the region, and indeed across the world. In fact, I think it arguably has the opposite consequences to its intended effect. It emboldens the regime to continue its domestic crackdown on popular protesters and exports terrorism to the wider region. Now, that's why I argued in an article I wrote for the Daily Telegraph earlier this week that the United Kingdom should instead side with its staunch ally, the United States, not the European Union, which we've just left, in taking a tougher stance on Iran's totalitarian regime. I stressed that the UK should support the reimposition of UN sanctions to maintain pressure on the regime and to assume leadership of an international inquiry into the 1998 massacre of 30,000 political prisoners in Iran. And I'm glad to say that 215 politicians from 24 countries across Europe have also called for the reimposition of sanctions. Now, the coming debate in the UN General Assembly offers an opportunity for the UK and the US to press for the continuation of those sanctions, encouraging other nations to follow the principled approach based on a hard-headed response to the reality of the situation in Iran and not to follow appeasement. By adopting a firm resolve to hold the regime's leaders to account at an international level for past crimes against humanity and current serious human rights violations. The UK and the US and other Western democracies should align themselves with the people of Iran and the pro-democracy movement that's led by Madame Rajavi, supporting a viable Iranian-made solution to the current regime in Tehran. This week, we celebrated Battle of Britain Day, which marked the victory of the United Kingdom over Hitler, when we as a country, stood alone for democracy against the most appalling fascist dictatorship. During World War II, under the leadership of Winston Churchill, the United Kingdom supported resistance movements throughout Europe against the Nazi regime. And in succeeding decades, the United Kingdom and the United States supported popular movements in East Europe during the Cold War. We did all this together because of our shared conviction that British and United States interests converged with the democratic aspirations of those people. And today, colleagues, the same is true in the case of Iran. I say that the United States and the United Kingdom, as countries devoted to the cause of freedom, should stand with the Iranian people and the NCRI in their struggle to establish a free, democratic, and secular republic in Iran. Thank you very much.